Alrighty, everybody, it's time for another Chronicle tip and trick. My name is Blake, and I will be taking you through today's tip and trick. So today's tip that we want to show you is going to have to do with our cradle to grave interface. So to go ahead and get started with today, let's go ahead and just log into Chronicle. I'm just going to go ahead and log in right here. And we're going to take a few minutes to just come in here to Cradle to Grave, okay? What we'll do at this point, and just so everybody knows, you have the ability with Cradle to Grave, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is select your time frame. With that being the case, you can actually go back from the point that Chronicle was installed up until the present point in time. So if I wanted to go back 3 years, I can go back and get information from 3 years ago. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to point out. You have the ability to go ahead and select your time frame. I'm going to come back to a time earlier this year, that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to select the 22nd through the 26th. I can do any amount of time that I desire, a day, a week, a month, whatever I want to do. Okay, so I'll go ahead and select my time frame. I also have the ability here to select some filters if I want to see calls for specific users or specific groups. I can even be more advanced. I can search for things with an account code, or I can say I want to see all calls that have a specific call duration, or there are a lot of great features here for you. I can select final user. I can say this call was abandoned or recorded. I have a whole lot of options here. Okay, so that's just one thing I want to just briefly hit on. You have the ability to very specifically narrow down to see specific calls that you want to see. Okay, but for today's training, what I want to talk about is hidden features with Cradle to Grave. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select my time frame that I'm familiar with, and I'm going to come in here and hit execute. When I hit execute, what that will do is it will pull every single call that took place during that time frame from my phone system. So I will be able to see every inbound, outbound, and internal call. Now I'm going to zoom in on this just a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. I'm just going to hold that control button on my keyboard and zoom in with my mouse wheel. Okay, so there we go. It makes it a little bit easier to see. Now, what I want to show you here is this. Most people see these and they take these headers at face value. Of course, they are showing me great information. I can see caller name, calling party, location, all sorts of great things. One thing I do want to point out is you can move these around. Okay, so if I want to be able to sort my columns or essentially just move them around to have it fit a specific layout that I want to see, then I can do that. Okay, well, one of the other features I want to point out here is even once I've moved my columns around, I'm also going to be able to right-click on these headers, and what that does is it shows me some of those hidden options that I can do. Now, I can size the column to fit. I can size all columns to fit, whatever I want to do. But what I want to point out here is I do have other columns that I can add to my Cradle to Grave. So, for example, if I wanted to see the DNIS digits, what number did they actually dial to get into my office? Okay, so I can throw that in there. I can add anything I want. I can remove anything I want, so I can go ahead and get rid of location if I don't want to see that in there. But the point is you do have other options. Rather than just what Chronicle gives you by default, you can come in here and change the way that this looks and add specific columns. Okay, so I have other options here. One of the other things I want to point out is you can save your layout. So once I have what I like to see, okay, once I have my DNIS digits, they're perfect. This is exactly the layout how I want it. I've got it all set up. One of the other things I can do is, again, right-click on here, and I'm going to come down here where it says Layout. And I'm going to save a layout. I'm going to save this as a new layout. I'm just going to hit New, and then I'm going to call this Blake's Layout. Okay, if I can spell my own name. There we go. So I've got my name. Let me go ahead and change that. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, what will happen from this point on, anytime I come into Cradle to Grave, okay, so if I log out, log back in, come into Cradle to Grave, I go back to whatever time frame I want to see, okay, I hit execute, and then if I want this to be in my layout, once this is finished running here, we'll give it a second, then what I can do is I can right-click again on my column header, come to Layout, hit Restore Layout, Blake's Layout, and that puts my layout in here. Okay, so it won't do it by default, but that's just because there could be multiple people using this account. If you want it in your specific layout, how you specifically want it, save that layout, and then restore that layout, and that allows you to have it the way you want to see it. Okay? For other tips and tricks, feel free to visit our Xima Care site, which is just ximacare.ximasoftware.com. Feel free to stop by there. Feel free to give us a call on our support staff at 1-888-944-9462, And always remember to select option 4, and that will take you directly to our support team. Other than that, everybody, thank you so much for your time, and have yourselves a great day.